welcome back to my channel. My name is Erin, and I am so excited that you decided to take time out of your day to spend with me because today we are doing something a little different for me anyway. So I decided that I wanted to do a book recommendations video, but I was like, I didn't want to just give book recommendations. I wanted to put a little spin on it. So I decided that I would use the TBR prompt spinner wheel that I use sometimes to make my TBR. But whatever prompt I get, I'm going to recommend you 2 books that fit those prompts. I hope that this will be, a little interesting and you'll be able to get at least 1 or 2 recommendations from this video of books that you've either never heard of or you haven't read yet. So without any further ado, because we know I like to yap, let us go ahead and get into this video. The first spin gave us published in the 2010s. And for that, I want to start off with a little bit of a nostalgia read for me. I read these books multiple times growing up, and I do plan on doing a reread just to see if it holds up or what I think about it now. So the first book is going to be Matched by Condie, a society in which the officials decide who you love, where you work, and when you die. Cassia has always trusted the society's choices, and when her best friend appears on the matching screen, she is certain he's the one, until she sees another face flash for an instant before the screen fades to black. Now she is faced with impossible choices between Xander and Kai, between the only life she's ever known and a path no one has dared to follow, between perfection and the truth. So this is a dystopian romance. You know the books that were out in the 2010s and what they were like, and so yeah, I really enjoyed this growing up. The next book published in the 2010s is going to be Scythe by Neal Shusterman, and this is a sci-fi YA series as well. And this says, a world with no hunger, no disease, no war, no misery. Humanity has conquered all those things and has even conquered death. Now Scythes are the only ones who can end life, and they are commanded to do so in order to keep the size of the population under control. Citra and Rowan are chosen to apprentice to a scythe, a role that neither wants. These teens must master the art of taking life, knowing that the consequence of failure could mean losing their own. They learn living in a perfect world comes only with a heavy price. And I love Citra and Rowan down. Like, yes, this one is a goodie as well. Prompt gave us Black Cover, and for this one, the first book I am choosing is going to be Lore of the Wilds by Analeigh Sbrana, and this is a mostly black cover, so yeah. And it says, an abandoned library with a deadly enchantment, a fey lord who will do anything to get in, and a brave human woman, a collector of stories, willing to risk it all for a taste of knowledge and power. Now, no going into this, that obviously from the cover, this is a love triangle, but it is something that I think you would enjoy if you like the, of course, library, cottage core-y type settings. Now, is this cozy? Not necessarily, but it does give off, those cottagey vibes, in my opinion. And I just love, like, look at this. This is the vibe this book is giving. Like, it's such a beautiful book. Our next black cover book is going to be The Dark King by Gina L. Maxwell. And this is a trilogy, I think, of standalones, and it's adult fantasy romance type situation. For Brienne, a free trip to the exclusive and ultra luxe Nightfall Hotel and Casino in Vegas should have been the perfect way to escape the debris of her crumbling career. But waking up from a martini and lust filled night to find herself married to Caden, the reclusive billionaire who owns the hotel and most of the city, isn't the jackpot one would think. It seems her dark and sexy new husband is actually royalty, the Fae King of the Night Court, and there's an entire world beneath the veil of Vegas. I really enjoyed this one. No going in that it is a little, I guess you would say, light BDSM maybe, but it's a really good story. They're standalone, so you don't have to read them in order, I don't think. But yeah, I actually was surprised by this one because I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did. And I really enjoyed Brienne and Caden as a couple. The next prompt landed us on first book in a series, and my first recommendation for this is going to be Make a Scene by Mimi Grace. Ow, just hit my lip. This is the first book in the Love Struck series, and these are romance standalones, I think. You can call them like an interconnected series. That's what I want to say. And they are very short. I think all of them are under 300 pages. So this is a very good, quick series to get through. Make a Scene follows Retta, who is having a bad day, but that's to be expected when your ex is engaged to your cousin. Instead of totally freaking out, Retta decides to attend the wedding with her amazing, faithful, and handsome boyfriend. One problem: he doesn't exist. Duncan Gilmore is living his dream. His boxing gym is open for business and he's focused on success. The last thing on his mind is a relationship. That is, until a beautiful baker next door makes him an offer so bizarre he can't refuse. One weekend of pretending to be Retta's boyfriend should be easy. However, shared kisses and some flirting start to blur the lines in their fake relationship. When their performance draws to a close, will they go their separate ways or return for an encore? Y'all know I love fake dating, so I had to. My next recommendation for a first book in a series is going to be The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. This is the first book in the Kiss Quotient series. It's also interconnected standalones as well, and it's a romance series. Stella Lane comes up with algorithms to predict customer purchases, a job that has given her more money than she knows what to do with, and way less experience in the dating department than the average 30-year-old. French kissing reminds her of a shark getting its teeth cleaned by pilot fish. Her conclusion: she needs lots of practice with a professional, which is why she hires escort Michael. With the looks of a K-drama star and the martial arts moves to match, the Vietnamese Swedish stunner can't afford to turn down Stella's offer. And when she comes up with a lesson plan, he proves willing to help her check off all the boxes, from foreplay to more than missionary position. Before long, Stella not only learns to appreciate his kisses, but to crave all of the other things he's making her feel. Their no-nonsense partnership starts making a strange kind of sense, and the pattern that emerges will convince Stella that love is the best kind of logic. Our next prompt was enemies to lovers trope. I know that is a favorite for most, if not all of us. So, the first recommendation that I'm going to make is This Ravenous Fate, and this is by Hayley Dennings. And this is a YA historical fantasy. It's 1926 and reapers are growing stronger everywhere. Created centuries ago by cruel medical experiments, these once human vampires are driven to attack without mercy. As the reluctant heir to her father's reaper hunting empire, Elise Saint knows that the Harlem Reapers want her dead. Among them is Layla Quinn, who lost her parents, the protection of the Saints, and her humanity the night she was turned into a Reaper, and she'll never forget how Elise Saint betrayed her. A wave of mysterious killings shocks the city, forcing Elise and Layla to work together to find out if some Reapers are turning human again or becoming even deadlier. As their investigation takes them from glittering parties to gangster underworlds, the two must confront their complicated feelings for each other. So this is actually childhood besties to enemies to lovers, and it's also more of like a mystery type situation as well, and I thought that this was done in such a great way. Now, for my second recommendation for enemies to lovers trope, I couldn't talk about enemies to lovers without talking about this duology and this author. And it feels like everyone has read these books at this point, but I just don't think you can have an enemies to lovers conversation without talking about an author who was able to do that not once, but twice, and for it to be effective, for it to, not be a mess. Because how do you do that twice with the same characters? But she did it. So if you haven't guessed it already, I'm talking about The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. And look, Araya and Rain are one of my all-time favorite book couples. It's a thing. But also the enemies to lovers in this, the angst, the feelings, the trying to fight it. You were rooting for them, but also not rooting for them because you never knew which side they were on and how it was going to end up. But then she turned around and did it again in the sequel, The Ashes and the Starcursed King. Like the way that they started back over at enemies and had to become lovers again, and it felt so real. I can't even put into words, but yes. So this duology, I couldn't talk about enemies to lovers without talking about the Nightborn duet. The next spin gave us more than 400 pages. And in this first book, I'm going to recommend has gotten a lot of flack for being more than 400 pages, for being more than 500 pages, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, she's over 500 pages. Barely, but yes. And that is Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. And the synopsis of this says, Julian, if I ever caught on fire, Dahlia would fan the flames with a smile. So when she returns to Lake Wisteria, I fully intend to avoid the interior designer, at least until my meddling mother exploits my savior complex. The faster I help Dahlia find her creative spark, the sooner she will leave town. But while I was busy getting rid of Dahlia, I overlooked one potential issue. What happens if I want her to stay? And Dahlia, people say the devil has many faces, but I know only one, Julian, my childhood rival and family frenemy. I vowed to stay clear of him while recovering from my broken engagement, but then the billionaire makes an irresistible offer: renovate a historic house together and triple our profits. Our temporary truce becomes compromised as we face years' worth of denied attraction and mixed emotions. Giving into our desire is inevitable, but falling in love, that isn't part of the plan. Julian and Dahlia were a really good couple, but Julian was a great love interest. So yeah, this was worth every page to me. Worth every page. My next recommendation for a book more than 400 pages long is going to be one of my new all-time favorites. I told y'all as soon as I read this book that I was going to be sticking it in every recommendation that I could, so you shouldn't be surprised that it's here if you watched any of my videos. And that is Immortal Dark by Tigest Girma. This is It's a YA fantasy romance, enemies to lovers, vampire, dark academia. In this, we follow an orphaned heiress who grew up far from the arcane society she was born into, where human bloodlines gain power through vampire companionship. When her sister disappears, she's convinced that a vampire stole her, the very vampire bound to their family. To find her sister, she has to infiltrate the elite Uxley University, where she must survive living with the vampire, even as he does everything he can to drive her away. She must find her sister and kill the vampire at all cost. It's a world of vampires that is dangerously romantic, ruthlessly cutthroat, and effortlessly compelling. And that's all facts. I loved everything about this book, and I need more people to pick it up. Our next prompt was Kindle Unlimited, but the first recommendation I'm going to give you is Reign and Ruin by J.D. Evans, and I think this is a series of um, fantasy romance type books. Each book follows a different couple, but the overarching plot follows through. So I suggest that you read them in order. She is the heir to a sultanate that once ruled the world. He is an unwanted prince with the power to destroy. She is order and intellect, a woman fit to rule in a man's place. He is chaos and violence and will stop at nothing to protect his people. His magic answers hers with shadow for light. They need each other, but the cost of balance may be too high a price. Magic is dying, and the only way to save it is to enlist mages who wield the forbidden power of death. Mages cast out centuries ago in a brutal and bloody war. Now a new war is coming, science and machines to replace magic and old religion. They must find a way to save their people from annihilation and balance the sacred wheel. But first, they have to balance their own forbidden passion, his peace for her tempest, his restlessness for her calm. Night and day, dawn and dusk, the end and the beginning. And this is a really cool magic system. It's based on a wheel and kind of like complementary powers opposite the wheel and things like that. And I thought this was just a great world, a great story. Our main character, I cannot remember her name and it doesn't say it in the synopsis, but she was one of my favorite main characters. She handled business. She was a baddie. She was a boss, and I'm always going to go up for that. And then for my second recommendation, I am going to recommend to you I Accidentally Summoned a Demon Boyfriend by Jessica Cage. And I think this is a great book for if you want to dabble into monster romance. So, let's talk about it. The last single friend in her group, and tired of being stood up by her girls, a drunken Raina turns to her first love, a book. After jokingly casting a spell her favorite character used to conjure a loving boyfriend, the results aren't nearly as funny because the damn spell worked, just not in the way she thought it would. Now she has a brooding demon who she needs to sever the magical bond with if she ever wants to live a normal life again. And this was very funny, a very interesting world, and a good introduction to demons and monsters who have very interesting appendages and body parts that can do interesting things without being too out there, you know, if you've never read that before. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I think you should give this a try. So the wheel decided to give us fantasy. And honestly, I think that the broader prompts are the harder ones because there's so many options that I could pick. But my first choice for a fantasy is going to be VenCo by Cherie Dimaline. and this is a witchy story by an indigenous author. Lucky St. James is bored. She lives with her cantankerous grandmother Stella in a tiny Toronto apartment and has been waiting for something to happen, something different, something more. Then one night, a strange and irresistible impulse seizes Lucky. She burrows into an old passageway and finds a tarnished spoon humming with otherworldly energy etched with a long-nosed witch and the word Salem. Enter VenCo, a front company fueled by dark money. VenCo's witches hide in plain sight where women gather. Tupperware parties, mommy and me classes, and suburban book clubs. Since colonial times, they have anticipated the moment the seven spoons, scattered by the martyrs of Salem, will come together to ignite a new era, returning women to their rightful power. But as the spoons fall into place, a very powerful adversary is stalking their every move. To find the last spoon, Lucky and Stella embark on a rollicking and dangerous road trip to the darkly magical city of New Orleans, where a final reckoning will determine whether VenCo will usher in a new beginning or be forced underground forever. This has very diverse representation in it. My next fantasy recommendation is going to be Evocation by S.T. Gibson. This is the first book in the Summoner's Circle series, and it says, as a teen, David Aristokov was a psychic prodigy, operating under the shadow of his oppressive occultist father. Now, years after his father's death and rapidly approaching his 30th birthday, he is content with the high-powered life he's curated as a Boston attorney, moonlighting as a powerful medium for his secret society. But with power comes a price, and the devil has come to collect on an ancestral deal. Reluctantly, he reaches out to the only person he's ever trusted, his ex-boyfriend and secret society rival Reese, for help. However, the only way to get to Reese is through his wife Moira. Thrust into each other's care, emotions once buried deep resurface, and the trio race to figure out their feelings for one another before the devil steals David away for good. And this is more so a character study and it's not heavy on the plot. But if you know going in that it's more of a character study on their relationship with a little occult secret society stuff sprinkled in, I think you'll have a better time. Well, the will is being funny because our next prompt is romantasy. So again, another hard one to narrow down to just two books to recommend, but I have my two picks. And the first one is going to be The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owen. And this is the first book in the Crucible series. This says, I have never been favored by the gods, far from it, thanks to Zeus. For the first time ever, the ruthless mercurial king of the underworld has entered the Crucible, the deadly contest the gods hold to determine a new ruler to sit on the throne of Olympus. But instead of fighting their own battles, the gods name mortals to compete in their stead. So why in the underworld did Hades choose me, a sarcastic nobody with a curse on her shoulders, as his champion? And why does my heart trip every time he says I'm his? I don't know if I'm a pawn, bait, or something else entirely to this dangerously tempting god. How can I when he has more secrets than stars in the sky? Because Hades is playing by his own rules. This book was so fun. I really enjoyed Lyra and Hades' relationship, and I thought that this book was funny. My next recommendation for a romantasy book is going to be one of my favorites, and that is Throne of the Fallen by Kerri Maniscalco. The way I love Envy and Camilla and this story, this world, I'm just here for all of it. Like, give me more of it. I need it. And this book is in the Princess of Sin series, but each book is a standalone. There is no like overarching plot. Each story is contained within itself, so you don't have to read these in order. The Prince of Envy has never claimed to be a saint, but when a cryptic note arrives signaling the beginning of a deadly game, he knows it will take more than a hint of sin to win and save his falling demon court. Riddles, hexed objects, anonymous players, nothing will stand in his way. None of his meticulous plans prepare him for her, the infuriating artist who ignites his sin like no other. The trouble with scoundrels and blackguards is that they haven't a modicum of honor, a fact Miss Camilla Antonius learns after one desperate mistake allows Waverly Green's most notorious rake to blackmail her. To avoid a ruinous scandal, Camilla is forced to enter a devil's bargain with Envy, little expecting his game will awake her true nature. Together, Envy and Camilla must embark on a perilous journey through the underworld, from the glittering demon courts to the sultry vampire realm and beyond, while trying to avoid the most dangerous trap of all, falling in love. And when I tell you, they went toe to toe. They were evenly matched in the best ways possible. Camilla was not a damsel in distress. She was out here saving Envy. She wasn't letting anybody walk over her. She was a main character, okay? Our next spin is a one-word title. And my first recommendation for that is going to be Outdrawn by Deanna Gray. This is a rivals to lovers sapphic romance. In this, we follow Noah, who has got her foot in the door. After clawing her way to the top of the charts with her webcomic, she's garnered enough attention to earn a full-time position at a comic company that's relaunching the cult classic comic, Queen Lasai. Lasai? No. Queen Lasaw is predicted to be an instant bestseller with movie deals already in the making. Things are falling into place. There's nowhere to go but up as soon as she gets one more person out of her way. Sage Montgomery has always been the best artist in every building she's stepped foot into. Raw Talent's gotten her webcomic to the top of the charts every month for the past 8 years. She's been the best for as long as she can remember. Sure, her career has plateaued, but that can be fixed with a big name comic release. She was promised full creative control over Lasaw, but what she got was a shared credit with the one artist who's been breathing down her neck since college, the one artist who has a fighting chance at being better than her. Sage and Noah have to work as a team, or at least appear to work as a team. They thought the hardest part of the relaunch would be drawing together, but that's easy in comparison to resisting their feelings for each other. This was just, I love Sage and Noah and their relationship so much. Another one of my favorite book couples. This is just, it does it in every way. My next recommendation is going to be Ivy by Willa Nash, who you may also know as Devney Perry. Same person. Aston University might be teeming with prestigious and wealthy students, but the currency on campus isn't their millions, it's their secrets. And the 3 women living at Clarence Manor are filthy rich in lies and deceit. 2 of the roommates have played this game for years. Some would consider them masters of a ruse. The third might be new to Aston, but she's no stranger to secrets. Cassia, the outsider, Allura, the ice princess, and Ivy, the puppet master. Who's hiding the ugliest truths? We'll let you be the judge. This is a romance mystery, and first of all, the couples in this book. Yes. Yes. The plot twist, yes. All the things. I didn't think I was like a romantic mystery type of person, but this one did it for me. This one did it. The next prompt was a novella. And I love novellas. Like I'm gonna read novellas. And the first one is going to be Smoked and Spiced by Casey Mills. Kaylee Webb and her sister Camilla are bringing a unique twist to the town's culinary scene with Sweet Reasons cupcakes. Braden Young and his cousin Lennox are mainstays of the town's culinary scene who offer a distinct flavor with smoked and spiced barbecue. When Braden pulls the smoked and spiced truck into Food Alley and finds a bright pink sugar explosion parked in their prime location, he's prepared for an all-out war. What he finds instead is a beautiful, persistent, clever, and gorgeous woman who challenges his restraint. Hayley's current focus is to secure a spot at Food Alley so Sweet Reasons gains the visibility and traction she and her sister need to expand their brand. When she pulls their truck into the best spot on the property, she quickly learns her competition is not only just as strong willed, but also incredibly charming and handsome. These two entrepreneurs can't see eye to eye. However, if they're not careful, they just might find themselves falling for the enemy. In this small town romance, Kaylee and Braden face off with witty banter and stubborn intentions. Y'all, this was just so cute. I loved Kaylee and Braden. Braden was my type of love interest. He had the one liners, he had the banter, and Kaylee was giving it right back to him. Like, such a cute book couple. And Braden has some very interesting things going on, and I'll leave it at that. My next recommendation for a novella is one that I've talked about a few times, and I'm going to keep talking about it until people pick it up because I just think it was so good and I feel like more people need to read it. And that is A Wolf Steps in Blood by Tamara Jarre. And we follow Yasmin, who is a red wolf girl stuck in rural Alabama. Her world is small. She picks up shifts at the greasy late night diner and endures her pack's petty squabbles. She's not good at being a wolf or being human, directionless in life and disconnected from her ancestors. Blessed by a century old enchantment, the local red wolves have escaped extinction by blending into the human world. But with the old witch's blessing wearing thin, the wolves face an uncertain future. An answer arrives in the form of an exiled blood witch whose magic is steeped in reckless grief. Kalta rides into town in her dead brother's truck, prophecy following on her heels. Despite the danger Yasmin can smell swirling around the witch, a fated bond tangles their future and those of all the wolves. After an accident threatens the wolves' secret, Yasmin has no choice but to join Kalta on the road, carving a path through the South's back roads and hoping the magic born between them is enough to overcome their bloody past. This was so good. It's witchy, it's wolfy, it's sapphic, it's all the things. Our next prompt was a book with a red cover, and I'm going to take it back to one of the first books that I picked up when I was getting back into reading a few years ago, and I loved it, and it just started the spiral. And that book is The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. I think I just flicked dust everywhere. Okay. And this also started my love for fake dating. Agreeing to go to a wedding with a guy she gets stuck with in an elevator is something Alexa Monroe wouldn't normally do. She's definitely not the spontaneous type, but there's something about Drew Nichols that's hard to resist. Drew has never found it hard to meet women or to know just when to leave them, but now on the eve of his ex's wedding festivities, he's minus a +1 until a power outage strains him with the perfect candidate for a fake girlfriend. From the best man's toast to the bouquet toss, Alexa and Drew have more fun than they ever thought possible. But before they know it, Drew has to fly back to Los Angeles and his job as a pediatric surgeon, and Alexa heads home to Berkeley, where she's the mayor's chief of staff, and neither of them can stop thinking about the other. They're just two high-powered professionals on a collision course toward the long-distance dating disaster of the century, or closing the gap between what they think they need and what they truly want. And this was cute. It was spicy. I felt the chemistry between Alexa and Drew, and it was a fun time. It was a cute, fun time. My second recommendation for a book with a red cover and a red hardcover as well is going to be The Shadows Between Us by Tricia Levenseller. And this is a YA fantasy romance. Whoa. Almost dropped you. And in this, we follow Alessandra. Okay. And Alessandra's a baddie. She is tired of being overlooked, but she has a plan to gain power. Number one, Woo the Shadow King. Number 2, marry him. Number 3, kill him and take his kingdom for herself. No one knows the extent of the freshly crowned Shadow King's power. Some say he can command the shadows that swirl around him to do his bidding. Others say they speak to him, whispering the thoughts of his enemies. Regardless, Alessandra knows what she deserves, and she's going to do everything within her power to get it. But Alessandra's not the only one trying to kill the king. As attempts on his life are made, she finds herself trying to keep him alive long enough for him to make her his queen, all while struggling not to lose her heart. After all, who better for a shadow king than a cunning, villainous queen? This one took me by surprise. I was not expecting to like this one as much as I did. I just loved watching Alessandra scheme and play these people and, do what a baddie does. And our last prompt is going to be a book with food in the title or on the cover. So the first pick that I have is going to be no surprise to anyone either, but that is The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields. And this is an adult, sapphic, historical, fantasy, romance, cozy, cottagecore, all the things. Witchy, all the things. So in this, it says, Marigold has always preferred the company of meadow spirits to the suitors who tried to woo her. So when her grandmother whisked her away to the tiny island of Innisfree with an offer to train her as the next honey witch, she accepts immediately. But her newfound magic and independence comes with a price. No one can fall in love with the honey witch. Then Lottie Burke, a notoriously grumpy skeptic, shows up on her doorstep, and Marigold can't resist the challenge to prove that magic is real, even at the risk of losing her home and her heart. And my last recommendation of this video is going to be Sweethand by N.G. Peltier. After a public meltdown over the breakup from her cheating musician boyfriend, Charisse swore off guys in the music industry and dating in general for a while, preferring to focus on her growing pastry chef business. When Charisse's younger sister reveals she's getting married in a few months, Charisse hopes that will distract her mother enough to quit harassing her about finding a guy, settling down, and having kids. But her mother's matchmaking keeps intensifying. Charisse tries to humor her mother, hoping if she feigns interest in the eligible bachelors she keeps tossing her way, she'll be off the hook. But things don't quite go as planned. Turns out, for the first time in ages, she and Kieran King, the most annoying man ever, are on the island at the same time. Avoiding him is impossible, especially when Kieran's close friend is the one marrying her sister and he's the best man to her maid of honor. Kieran doesn't know what to make of Charisse now. They've always butted heads. To him, she's always been a stuck-up brat who seeks attention, even while he secretly harbored a crush on her. Now, with Charisse's sister marrying one of his good friends, he can't escape her as the wedding activities keep throwing them together. When things turn heated after a rainy night of bedroom fun, they both have to figure out if they can survive the countdown to wedding day without this turning into a recipe for disaster. Doesn't that just sound so good? It is. You should read it. And with all of that being said, because a lot was said, those are the 24 recommendations that I have for you for this video. If you enjoyed this type of recommendation video, let me know in the comments. As always, if you have a recommendation for me or something that you think I would like or you want me to try, let me know. I'm always open to that. I would like to thank you for staying to the end of this video, listening to me yap, commenting, sharing, liking, subscribing. Anything that you do to support me and my channel is greatly appreciated. I hope that you have the best day that you possibly can, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.